Hello, my name is Benito Ibarra, and this is my persuasive speech in why I believe video games are not the cause for real world violence. Patrick Markey, who has a PhD in psychology from Villanova University in Pennsylvania, states how video games have often been blamed for being the cause of various mass shootings that have occurred here within the US for the past few decades. One major example being the mass shooting that occurred here in El Paso, Texas in 2019, where video games were blamed simply due to the fact that the gunman made a passing reference towards video game soldiers. So, why is this the case? Why does the media and several politicians believe that violent video games are the cause for these violent crimes? Why is there so much distrust towards something that is meant to be entertaining? Well, what I believe and what others believe is that this is because this is a political agenda. Sounds crazy, I know, but hear me out. I believe that political parties use video games as a scapegoat for these unfortunate and tragic events in order to avoid acknowledging other certain serious issues, such as the mental health crisis in young adults within the US, to the increase in radicalization of political parties and their ideas and beliefs, to even unregulated gun control, which is a different issue in of itself that I shall not get into. Former President Donald Trump, a staunch Republican, stated how we must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome, grisly video games that are now commonplace. And I'll give him credit where credit is due. I do believe we should stop the glorification and romanticizing of violence within our society. But I do not believe that video games is the cause for this. So, what are the major arguments that can debunk this sort of theory? Well, one of the major ones is that video games are not exclusively enjoyed here in the US. Video games are a global commodity. They're enjoyed everywhere. Video games are played in Europe, they're played in Asia, they're played in Africa and South America, and yet many of the countries within these continents don't blame video games for their violent real world crimes. And while, yes, there have been many experiments and tests that prove that playing video games constantly, violent video games specifically, for a long period of time can cause aggressive behavior in certain individuals, there haven't been any experiments or tests that elevate this aggressiveness into the point where the test subject wishes to do bodily harm upon another. And believe me, if such an experiment did succeed, we would have already heard about it. So if this is the case, if the media is wrong about this, if video games don't turn us into crazed psychopathic gunmen, what do they do to us? How do they affect us? Well, once again, as I stated earlier on, video games are meant to be entertaining, and entertainment is used to relax from time to time. We play video games to de-stress after a perhaps long and tiring day at work, or keep us from becoming anxious as we take our mind off certain things for a couple of hours, to maybe even improving our mood after once again going through a tiring day at work. And certain genres of video games, such as puzzles, strategy, can even help us in understanding complex situations in a short amount of time, as we have been playing so long to the point that all we can think about is video games, to be honest. From Tetris to Assassin's Creed, everything has a certain aspect to it that improves ourselves. Like, once again, Assassin's Creed, while yes, the title does suggest nothing too family friendly, the series takes the player throughout history, through certain time time periods where they experience certain historical events or even interact with historical figures that they may never even have heard about. And through this way, they become more knowledgeable as a person. And while video games might help you become, once again, more knowledgeable or perhaps even become a better multitasker or help you calm down after a while, it's perhaps not a healthy choice to continuously play video games for an extended amount of time. There is nothing healthy about playing video games for 8 hours straight. So, to conclude, do video games cause violence? I do not believe so. There is no experiment, there is no test that suggests or support this theory. Rather, there's many that actually suggest the opposite. We become more knowledgeable, we become more smart, and some video games actually even make us feel more sympathetic or become more kind towards certain subjects or topics or even real world issues. So I don't believe we should take advice from these people who think that video games are the spawn of Satan or cause us to become violent, crazed gunmen that is gonna shoot up a mall or a school. But rather, instead, what should we do? Well, we should all pick up a controller or our keyboards and boot up our systems and play a couple of games in order to relax ourselves. Let's just be sure to take a couple of breaks from time to time.